Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Dare Act Chat series powered by the Grey Matter. Our Dare Act guest for today is a corporate lawyer turned legal entrepreneur, Ritvik Lukose. He's the co-founder of Vahura and Counselect. So let's invite Ritvik and hear from him on why he chose to quit his practice of corporate law and venture into the uncharted terrains of entrepreneurship.
Yes,
Hi,
yeah.
Ritvik. Welcome to Dare Act and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be on. Yeah, and usually I'm very shy about these things, but with Neha asking me, and you guys have been doing an amazing job. You, Neha, Tanisha. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for agreeing. Okay, so super excited to know all about your journey. So I'm going to right away jump into the first question if that's okay. Perfect. So before joining NLSIU Bangalore, you had also experimented with BCom and CA. Tell us your why behind choosing law.
Yeah, so I actually did +2 in commerce. I did science maths. My dad's dream was for me to go to St. Stephen's, but class 12 I didn't get nearly as good enough marks, so that didn't happen. And then he said, what about CA, right? The next most prestigious. So I did my CA foundation kind of tuition classes. Very quickly realized that deathly boring. I couldn't do it. So then the law school exam was happening, and I went through the motions and gave it, and didn't get through. So I did BCom at Christ. I did first year of BCom, and it was a really important year for me. I kind of got back my confidence, was very active again, kind of doing a number of things, especially on the literary and debating circuit. And there I met a number of friends, mostly from Bangalore, who were in law school at NLS. And I wanted to I think, more be in NLS than study law, to be very honest.
Very
And
picky.
I had the added incentive that my then girlfriend decided to write the law school exam. So she was very disciplined, so I prepared really well, studied, got through. Unfortunately, she didn't get through. She got in the next year. So thanks to her and thanks to friends, finally made it to NLS.
Fantastic. So share with us some of your most fond memories from law school.
I mean, those 5 years were really magical, wonderful years for me. It helped that I dived in completely, with everything that was there to offer. So for the first 2 years, we'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and play cricket, practice like we were going to play for the country or something. And I was part of committees, especially the Literary and Debating Society was very active there. Love, actually, the classes for me, the multidisciplinary approach really kind of appealed to me, especially history, political science, um, economics as well. I think those subjects really open my eyes.
Everything away from law, like basically the non-law, non-legal subjects.
I enjoy the law subjects, but I think in terms of just opening my eyes, it was really and we had wonderful teachers, Professor Elizabeth, Babu Matthew, Professor Ram, amazing teachers. So, and
How
the
about
biggest thing for me was the hostel actually.
yeah?
So living on campus, the first time I was living on campus, and interacting with people from all over the country, your exposure in terms of what people are reading, what people are watching. I think I learned and grew, maybe more in the hostel than in class. So, I mean, 5 amazing years. Some of my best friends are from that period. So, yeah.
Fantastic. How about internships? Were you also seriously interning in all those 5 years, or you had a different funda when it came to internships?
Yeah. So actually, I'd started internships even before college. I was always fairly active in terms of right from school. I would do kind of internships Also to make some extra pocket money. You know, I was always up to stuff. Like even as a kid, I would find ways of selling things, putting on the show to make money. So that kind of
Oh, you've been doing that since a long time. That means clearly the entrepreneurship bug was there since the beginning. Just
at least the need for more pocket money bug was there. At least that's where it started. Then I think it got the entrepreneurial bug going. So I think with internships, I think went through the usual NGO, local litigation, small law firm, large law firm. The only thing I did differently, I guess, was I did an HR internship in my fifth year with ITC Foods. But I got there and they saw I was a law, kind of a law student, and they gave me HR like legal work to do. So, but yeah, I mean, I found a career in HR in a different way, which I guess is good.
Fantastic. Okay, so you joined the erstwhile Amarchand Mumbai after you graduated, and you worked there for over 2 years in the mergers and acquisitions, structured finance, capital markets. No, it's nothing less than a fancy corporate job a lot of law students aspire to have. Tell us, how were those years at Amarchand for you, when it came to work, came to your professional growth, and even culture for that matter?
Yeah. So actually, I got into the firm with a little different mindset because I had done a PPO. And before that, I'd written a CAT exam where fortunately that exam leaked. So, my terrible score didn't come out. So I did an internship at Amarchand. It was 3 months, very brutal. I swore never to go back. And then I got this lovely big check, with the PPO. And I said, okay, let me give this a shot for a few years. I've done 5 years of law. Let me see what this is about. And this was in 2004, right? So the economy was booming. It was really, really busy. Deals were happening all the time. And when I look back now, at a very young age, we got so much responsibility. As an associate, we were, very active on deals, leading deals. Like it was a lot of responsibility. And it was a much smaller firm then. So, got to work on matters with a number of different partners. With Umakant, even though he was in Bombay, in Bangalore then, on small stuff. Lina Chako was, the main partner I worked with. She was wonderful to work with. Nimisha Rao, Yash, Rahul, the late Mr. Bujani. So got to work with a number of, amazing people. So the work was great. The learning was great. We also had lots of fun, actually. It was a fun place to be. But I realized for me personally, that's, that kind of zenith of being a partner was not something I wanted personally. I realized that for me, kind of, I wanted to be on the business side of things. I was more curious within the firm about the business side of either a deal or how the firm ran than, the actual legal work. So that's when I kind of, decided that, I have to take a different approach.
So is that, you mentioned that you also gave CAT in your 5th year. So clearly law was happening, but parallelly you were still exploring avenues, right? Law wasn't like just the one thing, and you were still open to other stuff. Okay, fair enough. So you were in the process of your MBA applications, is what I understand. Did you also give CAT again when you were?
No, I knew that my quantability was hopeless when it came to CAT. So I decided to write GMAT. The Shroffs are very kind to give me a few months off. So I prepared well, went for classes. I got a good score. And I was applying for these schools and looking at that process. And I realized that at that time I was looking at a 2-year MBA in the US, and total cost would have been about 80 lakhs for those 2 years. Where you have to take a loan, then work there, pay it back, all of that. I didn't want to get into that cycle again, So I was very lucky that at that time kind of reconnected with Sachin Mahan, who had sold LST, was now thinking of, the next venture. And as we got talking, the Rainmaker idea, kind of came about with him, with Bhavin Patel, and then later Nikhil Chandra joined as well. So I was really fortunate that, just timing-wise, that really came together.
Were you scared because you were fairly young, and it was your first startup? So how were you feeling about, okay, being a co-founder of this startup? Because somewhere down the line, that thing strikes your mind that, oh, maybe I'm too young. I just have 2 years of experience. What am I doing here? Did you ever have to face that? Maybe you didn't. So I'll leave that to you. Also, what were some of the mistakes that you made as an amateur entrepreneur? And those mistakes, in fact, helped you, in your second venture, which is now one of the most popular ventures in the Indian legal space, Vahura.
So on the first one, I was lucky because for me, if it didn't work out, I could either go back to a law firm job or maybe another job, and the second thing was I was one of three other co-founders, so I didn't feel like everything was on my shoulders, right? So in that sense, it was easier for me. And great question in terms of the mistakes that I think we made. First, I'd say is that we were too internal focused. We were all so excited to be, out of a firm, doing something different, that we were too internal focused. We were not focused enough on, who we were serving. So I'd say that was, our first mistake. Second is, we chose friends more than partners in a way, and it's difficult working with friends. I don't know about you guys are friends as well, but it's difficult to really have certain difficult conversations. It's difficult to hold each other accountable unless you have that conversation at some time to say, listen, when we're dealing in this space, we're not friends, we're partners first, right? And I don't think we did that early on enough. So I'd say those are a couple of lessons from them.
Fantastic. Thank you for being so authentic about those. Okay, so with no background in recruitment, how did you narrow down to the idea of starting a legal recruitment business? And also, how did the concept of, starting a legalnaukri.com soon transitioned into a search model format? Very curious to know this.
So I always had an interest in people, in HR. I tried to do an HR internship. I read a lot about psychology and things like that. So that natural interest was always there. The legal recruitment piece really was, we stumbled upon it. So the original idea was to have like you said, a Naukri job site for lawyers, right? So we had this nice brochure where you could buy a resume package, you could do a job search. And I remember going to ALMT Legal at that time, with talking to Satira, and this same conversation played out in other firms. So this is an example. And she said, we already get our inbox are already spammed with applications. This is going to be one more layer of spam. We don't want that. So we're not interested. But if you guys can recommend people that you know, right, who worked in firms, and if you recommend, we'll pay you a fee. And we were like, oh wow, okay, that's another model. So it's not like we studied this model or any of that. We were also super lucky that around that time, in walked through the door Mr. Lee Ignatius to return a book that he borrowed. He had just quit a large recruitment firm at that time called MEHR, and he was going to join TCS the next day. Okay, he walks in to return this book, and we just come back from one of these meetings, and we're like, how do we start a recruitment business? And in walks Lee. And so we're like, Lee, how do we start this recruitment business? And he tells us, and we're like, listen, you have to join us. He says, I'm going to join TCS tomorrow. So we said, okay, listen, think about it, just let us know. And he goes home and he calls us into us saying, listen, I'm on. And for those who don't know Lee, amazing person. Lee is co-founder of Vahura, and he heads our law firm group. And so that was the start.
Wow, that is so interesting, and it's funny how it happened. What happened with Lee? I think some stars got aligned some way, but yeah, it makes so much sense now that you look backwards, right? Everything pans out well. Amazing. So interestingly, Vahura completes 10 years this month. how would you describe your journey with Vahura in a sentence or two? Also, what is the next milestone for Vahura?
So we actually, the Vahura brand was coined in October. So we're taking October 2021 as our 10-year date. But yeah, this year is our 10th year. Uh, you know, one of our colleagues who recently joined, Prajoy, had written an article just on his first month at Vahura, and for me that sums up my experience, which is what we call a day zero experience. I really feel like every day is like day zero, day one, afresh. And I think it's thanks to one, the amazing people that we have. I think we have a really good culture, which helps, and doing new things. So legal recruitment was new when we started. Recruiting for the in-house space was new when we started. When the new Companies Act came out, starting the board practice for independent directors, that was new. Relaunch in terms of program to help women come back to work, is new. Consulting, we're doing a lot of, cutting edge stuff on the consulting side that every day is so interesting. Counselect is our new venture, a separate company that we have, and Navigator as well, which again we're trying to build new muscles there. So we love doing new things internally as well. So yeah, I think that's the day zero is what I describe.
The day zero with Vahura. Fantastic. So, like you said, right, Vahura has ventured into the law firm space when it comes to recruitment. So, as the same case with the in-house space. So, clearly, you do understand what are the demands and expectations when it comes to hiring in these two areas. So, what, according to you, are the most sought after skills and qualities that these two spaces look at when they're hiring lawyers?
So for law firm, I'd say, it comes down to, let's say, two or three things. One thing as simple as the ability to work really hard and to be as thorough and professional through it all. Like it may seem fairly obvious, but it's, I think that's one key quality. Second is the client side has become a lot more important. The ability to build a client base, build client relationships, that's now becoming a USP for someone to really progress beyond a level. On the in-house side, as an in-house counsel, one has to be a lot more than just a lawyer. Like you have to be able to understand the business, to be able to use technology, operation system. So, to be a real corporate leader in that way, that becomes really defining. And I think with both, you're only as good as your team, right? So the ability to build a team and keep a team becomes critical.
So, since you do deal with candidates on an everyday basis, the skill sets that you spoke about, as on date, I'm not too sure if they're actually taught. Most of these skills are buildable, and most of the lawyers, they self-learn it while they're in the process of, becoming from zero A0 associates to probably principal associate partnership. What is the probability like when, a candidate resumes come to you, and when you're analyzing candidates on these skill sets, where does Indian candidature stand when it comes to these skills that are being sought after in this time and age?
Yeah, no, you're right. These skills are not really taught. So I think our job is to kind of evaluate whether those skills have been developed in some way, right? Either in law school or during the work that you're doing. Have you demonstrated those skills in some way? Also reputations. For us, I think a lot of what we do is to try and understand the reputation of a professional. As a leader, as a team player, as an advisor, and we kind of bring all that together when we make a recommendation to a client.
That's very insightful. Thank you for sharing that. So you also serve on the advisory board of CAM, which is Center for Advanced Mediation Practice, and you're yourself a mediation specialist. So my question to you is, why is mediation important?
I think mediation is very important for our legal system. If you look at the volume of cases, the burden on the courts, uh, if you look at, I think from an overall dispute resolution system, mediation is an important component to just ensure that certain kinds of disputes don't need to go to court, okay, or can be resolved better, in a better way. So that's at a systemic level. Personally, it's just something that appeals to me in terms of, as an entrepreneur, I think there are ways of kind of meeting our minds and to make a deal. So I've been training to be a mediator for some time. With Camp now, I'm doing co-mediations with Camp, and it's an amazing experience. I've been a disputant also in a case that we couldn't resolve. We went to mediation; it was resolved like in a day. Right? So I've experienced that firsthand, as well as a party in dispute.
And I'm assuming the skill sets that come as a mediator, you can actually use them really well in your own organization, right? At a leadership level.
It's listening, active listening. It's empathy, it's problem solving. So these are skills that we can use in many contexts.
Fantastic. Okay, so you clearly have over 10 years, over 11, 12 years of entrepreneurship journey in your hand, and you're going ahead with each passing day. Tell us, what have been your most valuable lessons which you hold to your stride and you kind of implement on an everyday basis, and which you think are worth sharing with budding entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So, first for me is that there's no one model of entrepreneurship. That was a big dilemma for me. Like a funded startup kind of venture is not appealing to me personally. Like it could be my Malayali roots that have a bit of anti-capitalism in it. But so for me that was a big thing, and I found this book called Small Giants. And that book kind of, in a sense, gave me the framework. Like maybe that's impacted Vahura, in many ways, but to have a certain model of entrepreneurship. So one, I'd say, it doesn't have to be cookie cutter. Everyone doesn't need to have a venture that's funded by a fund and then you go down this path. You can devise your own path. Second, I'd say is your greatest weakness can be your greatest strength. For me personally, like, a few people kind of told me, and I also had self-doubts, like, am I, too nice or too soft to be a good leader? It was a big concern that I had, and it took me some time to realize that those qualities actually could be good leadership qualities, if used in the right way. Again, listening, empathy, care, and now kind of we define some of those things in our culture as well, right? So that's how you can build culture. And third, I'd say, is take your recruitment really seriously, because you're only as good as your team. So take recruitment and take culture building super seriously. And if I can just get in one more, it's be external focused and really listen to the people that you're serving. Listen to the market and really kind of be agile to the needs of the market.
Thank you, Ritvik, for sharing that. You're also mentoring entrepreneurs under the initiative called No Change Maker Left Behind. Why don't you tell us briefly about this initiative?
So one of the things that we're really happy to be part of, we're one of the founding partners of Agami. And Agami is doing amazing work in catalyzing innovation in the space of law and justice. So one part of that is No Change Makers Left Behind. If you go to the Agami website, agami.in, you can book on Thursdays from 4 to 4:45. You can book slots. There are a few mentors kind of on the platform who've voluntarily given their time. So we have Pramod Rao, GC of ICICI Bank, Aparna Mittal, who's an amazing entrepreneur, was in a law firm, Vasudevan Srinivasan, who heads Leverage, an amazing HR and leadership firm, and many others, Sachin, Malan, Supriya, Shankaran. So you can really select a slot, and it's really it's a conversation that you can have and really just discuss the challenges that you're facing, question that you have. So it could be about business plans, funding, how to recruit, what technology to use, and it's I wish I had that opportunity when we were starting up. So I'm glad to be part of it.
So it's your way of giving back.
It's my way of talking to people who have amazing ideas and amazing energy, and it's great. I love it.
Fantastic. Any advice that you may want to share with law students and lawyers who may be unsure about the law?
Yeah, so one, I think it's good to talk to folks in the profession, and talk to someone who's already down that path that you're looking at. That's one. Second is, I think with legal education in the profession, there are certain things that if you like doing, it becomes easier, right? So if you like reading, for example, if you enjoy interacting with people, that becomes important. But I think the amazing thing about legal education is that you can do so much within the law, outside of the law, like you, Shreya, I think it's an education that you can that has great options. So seriously consider it, but do your homework.
Do your homework. I wish somebody told me this 5 years ago. I think it's like when we're in need, we're like, where is all the help? And then when you go through that journey, you look behind and you're like, oh my God, I wish I had the same lessons, and I wish somebody perhaps had Dare Act chats where you could see so many people are doing such varied kind of work, even after doing law. So thank you for sharing that. And with that, this brings us to the end of the chat, Ritvik. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for daring to act differently. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Shreya. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to the audience as well, and I will see you next week. Thanks again. Have a great weekend, Ritvik.
Bye-bye. Bye.